If you walk through the manicured gardens of a historic estate, or even the front yards of many suburban homes across America today, you will likely see a vigorous vine climbing the trellises. It creates a stunning wall of heart-shaped leaves and brilliant fire engine red flowers that attract hummingbirds by the dozen. For centuries, Western gardeners have prized this plant strictly as an ornamental masterpiece. But this is a deception. While we have been admiring the flowers, we have been ignoring a biological powerhouse. This is not just a pretty vine. It is one of the oldest domesticated crops in the Americas. It produces beans the size of your thumb that pack a protein punch rivaling beef. And unlike the fragile beans in your vegetable garden that die at the first frost, this plant hides a secret underground. This is the story of the Scarlet Runner, the Ayocote of the Aztecs, and how industrial convenience stripped the meat from our gardens. Welcome to Ancestral Yields. If you are ready to stop looking at your garden and start eating it, make sure to like this video and subscribe. This plant was not discovered by Europeans. It was engineered by indigenous civilizations in the cool, humid uplands of Central America. In the mountains of Oaxaca and Chiapas, dating back to at least 2000 BC, the people cultivated the plant they called the Ayocote. It was a cornerstone of the traditional milpa agricultural system. In this ancient permaculture, the corn provided the stalk, the squash covered the soil to retain moisture, and the Ayocote bean climbed to the heavens. It was the crucial protein link, fixing nitrogen in the soil to feed the corn while providing a dense, meaty food source that complemented the carbohydrates of the maize. It was a staple food of the Aztec Empire, prized not just for its massive yield, but for its resilience in the cool mountain air where other crops struggled. When the Spanish arrived, they recognized the caloric value of the bean. By the 17th century, the plant had made its way to England, likely introduced by the famous royal gardener John Tradescant. But when it arrived in the British Isles, something strange happened. The climate was cool and wet, perfect for the plant, and it thrived. Yet the British aristocracy did not put it in the larder, they put it in the flower border. The blooms were so striking, so vividly red against the gray English sky, that the Scarlet Runner became a victim of its own beauty. For nearly a century, it was grown in Europe almost exclusively as an ornamental status symbol. While the wealthy admired the vines from their parlor windows, it was the cottage gardeners, the working class, who eventually realized that the pretty vine could feed a family of 6. They discovered that the green pods were delicious when young, and the dried beans were savory and filling in the winter. So, if this bean is bigger, hardier, and capable of living for years, why is it missing from your grocery store? Why do we eat the small, annual kidney bean or the stringless green bean instead? In the mid-20th century, American agriculture underwent a massive shift toward mechanization. The goal was to remove the human hand from the harvest to lower food costs. Engineers developed mechanical harvesters that could sweep through a field and strip the pods in seconds. But these machines had a specific limitation. They worked best on plants that were low to the ground, uniform, and that stood upright. This led to the dominance of the bush bean. Breeders took the common bean and bred the climbing out of it, creating dwarf varieties like Blue Lake Bush that stood knee-high, perfect for a tractor to pass over. The Scarlet Runner Bean refused to comply. It is a vine that wants to climb 10 to 15 feet high. Growing scarlet runners requires infrastructure, poles, wires, or corn stalks. And harvesting them usually requires human labor to reach the high pods. Furthermore, there was a shift in consumer expectation regarding texture. The scarlet runner has a thick, fibrous parchment layer on its pods that develops as the bean matures. This tough skin protects the giant seeds inside and allows them to overwinter. To eat them as green beans, you must pick them very young, or you have to string them, removing the fibrous thread that runs down the spine. As the convenience culture of the 1950s took hold, the consumer palate changed. We began to demand stringless beans, varieties bred to be tender and fiber-free even when large. We traded the rich, meaty flavor of the runner for the convenience of a bean that did not require prep work. But when we let industrial logic dictate our diet, we didn't just lose a flavor, we lost a nutritional heavyweight. To understand why the Aztecs relied on this plant, we have to look at the data. The scarlet runner bean is chemically and botanically distinct from the common green bean. Let us start with the seed itself. When dried and shelled, scarlet runner beans are massive, often 1 inch long. According to USDA nutrient data for mature seeds, these beans are approximately 21% to 24% protein by dry weight. 100 grams, about 3.5 ounces, of dried beans delivers roughly 24 grams of protein. That is comparable to a 3-ounce serving of beef steak, which contains about 25 grams of protein. It is no wonder these beans were the primary protein engine for millions of people in pre-Columbian Mexico. Beyond protein, they are rich in minerals that modern diets often lack. A 3.5-ounce serving provides nearly 35% of your daily recommended iron and is packed with folate and potassium. If you grow varieties with purple or black speckled seeds, you are also getting a massive dose of anthocyanins, the same potent antioxidants found in blueberries and blackberries, and they have been linked to reduced inflammation and improved heart health. The plant also possesses a unique hardiness enzyme profile. Unlike common beans that rot in cold soil, scarlet runners can germinate in soil temperatures as low as 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 10 degrees Celsius. This makes them an ideal crop for the shoulder seasons, thriving in the cool weather of spring and fall, where standard green beans would fail. It is a 3-crop plant, with edible flowers that taste like nectar-sweetened peas, green pods for cooking, and massive dried beans for stews. So how do you bring it back? The scarlet runner requires a different approach than the standard garden bean, both in the soil and in the kitchen. First, you need to know where it grows. The scarlet runner is a perennial in USDA zones 7 through 11. If you live in these milder climates, cut the vine down at the first hard freeze of fall and leave the roots in the ground. They will overwinter and shoot up again in spring. In colder regions, USDA zones 3 through 6, dig up the tuberous roots in the fall. Treat them exactly like a dahlia. Store them in a cool, dark, frost-free place buried in peat moss. In the spring, plant the tubers for a massive head start. Once the vines are climbing your trellis, and they need a strong trellis because they will grow over 12 feet, you have 2 distinct harvest windows. The first window is for snap beans. Harvest the pods when they are young, flat, and usually less than 6 inches long. At this stage, they are tender and stringless. If you wait too long and the pod starts to swell or feels rough like a cat's tongue, a fibrous string will develop along the spine. If you harvest at this middle stage, use a paring knife to pull the string off before cooking, just like your grandmother used to do. The second window is for shelling beans, and this is where the real value lies. Let the pods grow until they are massive, purple, and drying out on the vine. Inside, you will find the giant, beautiful seeds. Harvest these, shell them, and store them as dry beans. However, there is a critical safety warning you must heed. Like many legumes, including the red kidney bean, scarlet runner beans contain a compound called phytohemagglutinin. In raw beans, this lectin is toxic and can cause severe gastric distress, nausea, and vomiting. You cannot eat these beans raw, and you must not simply toss them into a slow cooker from a raw state, because gentle heat can actually increase the toxicity. To prepare them safely, soak the dry beans overnight, discard the soaking water, and then boil them vigorously for at least 10 to 15 minutes before lowering the heat to a simmer. This high heat completely neutralizes the toxin, making the beans perfectly safe. Once cooked, the texture transforms. They become incredibly creamy, rich, and savory, often more like chestnuts than a standard bean. You can source seeds from heirloom suppliers like Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, Seed Savers Exchange, or Burpee. Look for classic varieties like Painted Lady or Magic Beanstalk. Just remember, cook them well, give them something to climb, and they will feed you for years. The Scarlet Runner Bean challenges us to rethink the architecture of our food. It is time to take this plant out of the ornamental section of the seed catalog and put it back on the dinner plate. It is a reminder that beauty and utility do not have to be enemies. You can have the most beautiful vine in the neighborhood and the fullest stomach. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the lost crops of the past, remember to like and subscribe. We will see you in the garden.